Today we'll discuss consumers equilibrium with the help of indifference curve and the budget line. So now you see, in case of consumers equilibrium, mainly there are two conditions: MRS xy is equal px divided by py. MRS xy means the slope of indifference curve and px by py is the slope of budget line. So when MRS xy is equal px by py, it means slope of IC is equal slope of budget line. Then consumers equilibrium. Okay, second condition is IC is convex to the origin. Clear? It means at the point of equilibrium, so IC should be convex to the origin. So now see this diagram. In here OX denotes the good X, OY denotes the good Y. So there are three indifference curve: IC, IC1 and IC2. One thing see, so and this one is the, for example, okay, AB is the budget line. So what you have seen that IC2 curve is above than your budget line. So it means this one is, this indifference curve is above than budget line. So in here that means you are not able to go to that side. So we will not discuss about the IC2. This is the beyond. Okay, now you see this budget line AB intersect these two indifference curve, IC1 at point E1 and IC1 again in here E2, and this budget line intersect indifference curve at point E. Okay, so now you see, according to the first condition, MRS xy is equal px by py, it means when both intersect. So according to first condition, there are three equilibrium points, E, E1 and E2. But if you see the second point, IC, it is convex to the origin, then you will see that only point E is convex to the origin. So it means point E is satisfied the both condition at the same time. Simultaneously, point E satisfied the both the condition MRS xy is equal px by py and IC is convex to the origin. So definitely E is the consumer's equilibrium point. It means when consumer will consumes OX1 of X good and OY1 of good Y, then he will get the optimum level of satisfaction, or this is the consumer's equilibrium. Clear? So it means according to the first condition, both three are the equilibrium. But if you see the second condition, only E satisfied both the condition at the same time or simultaneously. So definitely E is the equilibrium point. At E you have seen that he or she is consuming OX1 of good X and OY1 of good Y. So this is the equilibrium quantity. It means OX1 of X good and OY1 of good Y. Now you see why E1 and E2 is not equilibrium point. First two already you came to know that at the point of equilibrium, E1 and E2 is not convex to the origin. Another point you see, suppose if you take the E1, then what you have seen? See here, suppose X3 and in here suppose Y3. So what you have seen that if you consume at the point E1, it means you are consuming more of Y commodity and very less of X commodity. It means this much only you are using. It means this much. No, only OX3 of X commodity you are consuming and OY3 of Y commodity you are consuming. So already we discussed that if you consume more, then satisfaction decreases. So now you see you are consuming more of good Y. So what you will do, you will try to reduce this consumption and you will try to increase more of this X consumption. So definitely it will come down. Clear? Same thing for point E2 also. If you consume at point E2, what is the meaning? It means in here, suppose Xn, in here Yn. So it means in here you are consuming more of X1 and less of Y. Okay, so it means you are consuming more of X commodity and less of Y commodity. Then what you will do? So you will try to increase more of X and you will try to reduce of you will try to increase the consumption of Y commodity because very less portion you are consuming, and you will try to reduce the consumption of X commodity because you are consuming more. Clear? So that's why point E satisfied both the conditions simultaneously. So that's why E is the equilibrium point where that the consumer will consume OY1 of Y good and OX1 of X good. So this is the consumer's equilibrium. Is it clear? So first to see what I did, I have drawn 3 indifference curve and 1 budget line. After that, see this IC2 is the beyond budget line, so we will not discuss. And after that, we have seen that this budget line AB intersect IC and IC1 at E, E2 and E1. But according to the first condition, E, E1 and E2, all three are the consumer's equilibrium point because MRS XY is equal PX by PY. But if you see the second condition, IC is convex to the origin, then you will see that E is only convex to the origin. So that's why E is the point of consumer's equilibrium. Okay. Then we discussed that if you take E1, what will happen? Then you are consuming more of Y commodity and very less of X commodity. So you will try to reduce the consumption of Y and you will try to consume more of X. So definitely this will shift. So that's why it is not the equilibrium. Again, if you see the E2, you are consuming more of X commodity, very less of Y commodity. Again, you will try to reduce the consumption of X commodity. But at point A, you have seen that this one is the consumer equilibrium because it satisfied both the conditions simultaneously, and at this equilibrium point E, consumer is consuming OX1 of X and OY1 of Y. So this is the consumer's equilibrium with the help of indifference curve and the budget line. So I hope you understood this lesson, but if you have any problem, let me know in the comment section below and I will talk to you there. Thank you.